And stay away from my son or I'll kick your ass.
You don't understand who you threaten. I have powers. Terrible powers! Ma?
I'd like to first thank everyone for all their amazing support in the voting polls on what I should review next. With 65 votes, what should the next King of the Hill review be? And you awesome Hooties have voted. And with 48%, Witches of East Ireland has won. Hank's Bully being second, not surprising. And the Fat and the Furious and the Powderpuff Boys are in third. Which is kind of sad, because the Powderpuff Boys is a really good episode.
But I'm so pretty!
Now, I'm not saying I'm upset with the results, because Witches of East Ireland, surprisingly, is my favorite episode. Not sure why. But, with that being said, gather some of your friends, join a coven, or, do whatever you guys like to do on your weekends or weekdays when you're watching my reviews. Grab some snacks, some nutmeg, make a cake of tremendous power. Don't worry, that'll come up later. As we enjoy Witches of East Ireland. We start at Tom Landry Middle School as Bobby awaits the results of the casting for the musical Oklahoma. Dooley has a dance part.
I'm in a dance number.
It will be an honor to work with you. I think you'll find my portrayal of Curly to be both sensitive and gruff.
I think it's interesting how he inherited most of his personality and humor from Peggy and some interest with Hank, whereas barbecuing and grilling and stuff, but mostly with Peggy. But alas, when he checks to see if he is casted for Curly McLean, he is shocked to find it's been given to
Ken Hayashi?
Now, I don't know if that's Japanese or Laotian, considering there's a little Laos in the western part of Ireland, which is pretty much 2 strip malls. I'm guessing it's Laotian. We see Hank in his truck trying to get Peggy to move along so he can get to the flea market before the tube sock guy leaves, as he always brings his old German Shepherd, and if it gets too hot, he'll have to bring him home. And Peggy explains that Bobby's been sulking with his cowboy hat in his room and needs his father to console him. But when Hank tries to explain the situation to Peggy, she gives him an angry look, and Hank has to go in and console his son for not being in a play. And I can understand how Bobby feels not being casted in a play he wanted to be in, which I never had to worry about that. But these are tube socks we're talking about, Peggy. He can't wear yours. It's Hank Hill we're talking about. That just ain't right.
I just can't believe it. I thought it was meant to be.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible. It's just terrible. Terrible.
Now, I was gonna make a joke about how Hank walking in and while Bobby's listening to Oklahoma, he turns off the music, but I think this scene is a lot funnier than anything I would have said. Hank wonders why Bobby doesn't play with Connie or Joseph, and he says that Joseph's at football practice and Connie's at one of her recitals, and laments that he thought that performing was his life goal, demonstrating his Shakespearean-like performance as he cries on command.
Why? See?
Hank decides to take Bobby on the trip to the flea market, and maybe Bobby can find a new hobby, something that'll bring him friends, and not weirdos that want him to drink, I don't know, something like K9 Spiritus, which I'm not going to reveal because, later on.
The flea market. It's like America's garage. Somewhere in all this old stuff is the new you, son.
Ah, yes. Who knows what wonderful whimsy awaits Bobby amongst the vans and little shops of the flea market. Hank makes a suggestion that he could be the go-kart guy while throwing together this with a lawnmower engine as he sees the old guy fanning his dog.
Oh, come on, it's not that hot.
Oh, don't lie, Hank. If that was Lady Bird, you'd do everything in your power to keep her cool. Hank gives Bobby some money and sends him off to find his new hobby. While he's looking around the flea market, he finds the cards. And that's what they are.
Oh, those are tarot cards. People use them to tell the future.
They're like baseball cards for hobbits. I'll take them.
Bobby reads up on tarot cards as Hank. Holy crap, Hank, that's a lot of socks. I think Hank's good on tube socks for a while. No wonder he doesn't go back to the flea market to get more tube socks.
Everybody respects a guy who's good at cards.
Really?
Well, sure. That's why they always get nicknames like Amarillo Slim or the Cincinnati Kid.
So you see, Hank kind of doesn't understand exactly what cards those are.
I know. I'll call you Ace.
Oh, don't worry. With those cards, Bobby will get a whole lot of nicknames by the end of this episode. Bobby reads Dale's future, and at first, it sounds promising, and Bill brags about his current relationship with Leoma.
Things have been going pretty well for me. You know, with my girlfriend Leoma and...
But then, it turns out that the fortune is actually misfortune, and leaving Bill depressed. And let's be honest here, being depressed isn't exactly a new thing for Bill. While looking through movies, Bobby runs into...
Oh, for the love of Mordecai. Oh, I see you're into tarot. How long have you divined the cards?
Bobby, don't do it. Don't even interact with him. You don't know the kind of sinister world you'd be pulled into when interacting with Ward Rackley.
Couple of days. It's kind of my thing.
The only thing you can predict with these is a coincidence. No. If you want any accuracy at all, you need a Mantegna deck.
Now, I'm not going to pretend like I know the difference between Metamia and Amphibia decks. You know, Squirrel Tactics did a really good job with that review and explaining it. I just don't want to feel like I'm plagiarizing something or I'm already saying something that someone else already said. So I'm just going to stick with the review. And to be honest, if Ward wasn't all obsessed with cult stuff, I think he'd be a pretty cool guy to hang out with, you know, learning magic and stuff. Kind of reminds me of Wizard Hoots.
Of course, forecasting the future is just the beginning. The real power of magic, and that's magic with a CK, comes in manipulating the present.
And like great wizards, he is shunned by society and ridiculed for his magic powers. Or he's just a really bad employee.
Today, Merlin!
Oh, wise and mighty Heredia, do please do smite.
Hey, say what you will. We don't see that guy later on the episode, so he's probably dead. Hank is scolding Dale for spraying his house number on his curb, which sounds like a reoccurring incident considering he always tells him to not do it. And Bobby asks if he can hang out with his friend Ward tonight.
Gee, Bobby, you put me in an awkward position. You really should be asking your father.
You know, they could take this little moment out and it would have no impact on this scene at all, but I'm glad they added it.
Who's this Ward fella?
I met him at the video store.
Now, if you watch the episode, which, by the way, if you haven't watched Witches of East Ireland, do it now, then come back and watch this review, Bobby doesn't mention anything about the tarot cards or anything about magic or anything because he knows how Hank acts. By the way, I'm going to have a huge rant for Hank later on. Only mentions the cards and not the fact that they're tarot cards. By the way, the tarot cards aren't mentioned at any point in the episode. That's just sort of the thing that gets Bobby through the door, I guess. Of the Coven of Artemis.
So I'm gonna hang out with him and his friends tonight. I'm bringing the chips.
Well, see, Bobby, I knew you'd find your thing. And doesn't that sound like more fun than being in a musical about Oklahoma?
Now, we all know how Hank is with other states that ain't good old Texas. And specifically Arlen, Texas. He shouldn't be so judgmental about Oklahoma, considering the kind of crap the Coven of Artemis are about to get to. I myself respect all states, including Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain, where the weaving wheat can sure smell sweet when the wind comes right behind the rain. Yes, I did look up the lyrics for Oklahoma by Rodgers and Hammerstein. Don't judge me.
Welcome to the Coven of Artemis.
Now, I may have to warn you, you're about to encounter the coolest group in all of King of the Hill, so get ready.
Wow, cool lair.
It's okay, it's okay. It was only a glimpse. Staring at such majesty can blind you, so I only give you a little bite-sized view of the awesome that is the Coven of Artemis. By the way, after doing some research on what Ward and the Coven were listening to, only guessing it had something to do with Rush or a parody of it, I found it was The Trees from their Hemispheres album, which makes sense. I mean, why wouldn't they listen to Rush? It's the most epic fantasy rock band of all. And there's no way that Ward isn't playing computer games like The Elder Scrolls or Ultima on his spare time. That would just be too unusual a concept to think. Now that I've given you time to calm your minds from the epicness, Ward, you may continue.
I suppose introductions are in order. Bobby, meet Vaughn, Noram Woodbender, Pan the Soothsayer, and of course, the Master of Disaster, Mitchell Jefferson.
You can't just bring outsiders to our meetings.
It's okay, Mitchell. He's cool.
You're supposed to—
I said he's cool!
Welcome.
Dang, him and Hank have the same chat energy. All you had to do is stare down Mitchell Jefferson and he folds faster than the first rat you see in Oblivion. You know, the one you meet right after you get out of your jail cell. Before proceeding, he warns him of the dangers of joining the Coven and how the outsiders will view him when Bobby does this.
Holy, this looks like something out of Harry Potter.
Dude, I just vouch for you.
Bobby, what are you doing? He just vouched for you. Quickly, say something to save yourself. Don't mess it up.
If Harry Potter went to hell...
Oh my goodness, okay. Don't worry guys, he's still a part of the Coven. He saved it. At the Arlen Mall, Ward asks him what nutmeg can be used for in magic. Okay Bobby, I know we haven't seen you read any books about magic, but you have to know what nutmeg is for.
Oh, I remember. Give me a second. Invincibility.
Resplendent! The spices sit easily upon you.
Oh, I see you boys are making a cake.
A cake?
Yeah, a cake of tremendous power.
I'm so proud to see Bobby growing into such a powerful wizard.
Score one for the acolyte!
Despite how weird they may be to other people, and considering they're adults talking to what Bobby is probably 14 at the time, he's actually hanging out with people that have the same interests and stuff that he likes. At the football game, Bobby says he has to cut the last quarter short to hang out with the gang and accidentally leaves without the cards.
Uh-oh. Ace is gonna need this.
And it is here that Hank Hill discovers the truth of the Coven of Artemis. While looking for Bobby, he sees a group in the woods and thinks it's him tailgating when he discovers the Coven of Artemis in the middle of a ritual.
We command you to rise and lend us your power.
Interloper!
What the hell are you people doing?
Hey, Dad,
Bobby?
meet the guys. Or as we like to call ourselves, the Coven of Artemis.
And Hank gives the most Hank response to this situation.
Bah!
It's a lot more tamer than his usual blah. Let me know in the comments what you think Hank's biggest blah moment was in the series.
Here I am thinking you're playing a nice, honest game of poker, and instead you're summoning the Prince of Dragons?
So it's here where we see the problem with Hank. You see, Hank doesn't like the fact that Bobby's doing all this magic stuff because it makes him look bad, even going as far as shielding Bobby from the other students so they don't see him. I'll talk about this later. This part really frustrates me about how Hank treats it, but how everyone in this episode treats the Coven of Artemis. Even if you take away the fact that they were too old to hang out with Bobby, which is weird, Hank would still find fault with it and make Bobby act normal. And I know I said I'll talk about this later, but the one thing I find frustrating about Hank, and this show for that matter, is treating things that aren't quote-unquote normal. Hank wants Bobby to be more like him, despite the fact that Hank was a football captain, and the fact that Bobby has absolutely no majority of interest to Hank aside from grilling and food. So, the fact that Hank is trying to force Bobby into this bubble really frustrates me. Telling him that the Bible was less expensive than the Book of Magic, and the fact that Jesus wrote it, which wasn't true. It was written by a bunch of people that translated it. But anyways, Hank tells Bobby to get in the truck and stop all this nonsense. Meanwhile, at Pizza Paradise, the Coven are using the crystal to find a seat that's available when one becomes available.
Well done, Noram. Your powers are growing stronger.
Bet you wish you could harness the power of the crystal to find a solitary seat at the Arlen barn so you can enjoy your coveted meatloaf sandwiches without sitting around other people. Hank! Bobby shows up shortly after, upset that he has to break the bad news.
Young apprentice, something is on your mind. I can sense it.
Either Ward is good at reading people, or Bobby didn't make it no secret that he was upset.
My dad says I can't hang out with you guys anymore. I guess he thinks magic is dumb.
Magic is dumb? Does this look dumb? Huzzah!
Don't make me come over there!
Are you trying to get us kicked out of here?
Sorry.
I have a feeling that's not the only time Noram's finger flasher got them into trouble. By the way, it took me so long to search up the name for that thing. Ward explains to Bobby that Hank isn't gifted and that his people were persecuted because they did not understand their abilities. Which basically means him and his friends were bullied in high school and they decided to turn to these magic stuff as an escape, which honestly, I can understand that. He explains that the mark of Merlin is on him, and when his training is complete, he will become a white wizard. Imagine Bobby, a white wizard. And no, before anyone even asks, I highly doubt that Ward Rackley is implying that for white wizard.
Your training begins now. You can start by refilling my Hoot beer.
And with the refilling of his pre-soda beverage, Bobby has began his training to become the White Wizard of the Coven of Artemis. Bobby begins his training by helping the students of Tom Landry Middle School by helping them get the ball down from the roof.
By the breath of Hecates, I summon the winds of the north to blow. Blow, I say!
Bobby, a word, please.
Carl, you should never interrupt a wizard when they're in the middle of an incantation.
Resplendent.
Did that janitor knock off the ball on his own, or was it influenced by Hecates? Principal Moss wants to get to the bottom of Bobby's recent behavior and asks what the political term for witch is. I'm pretty sure the term you're looking for is either Wiccan or pagan. Peggy is finally made aware of this and asks Hank what's going on, to which he says, oh, he got a little carried away with the club and now he's quitting. Look, I don't want to get into a loop about this, but I don't understand what's so bad about this, Coven of Artemis thing, aside from what happens later on, which I'll get to when I get to it. There's really nothing wrong with the Coven of Artemis. They're just a bunch of nerds just hanging out and doing stuff. What's wrong with that?
I think everyone's just a little uptight. Why don't I summon up a tranquility spirit so we can all rest easy?
Principal Moss confuses his summoning spell for praying and tells him there's no praying in school when Hank goes to stop Bobby, and Peggy Hill doesn't make the situation any better.
Hank, I may be a mother, but I am still a woman, and I know a girl repellent when I see it. Oh, I want grandchildren. Will you fix this?
Fix what? There's nothing wrong. Aside from Bobby wearing his robes at school and leaving it to just the house or hanging out with the Coven of Artemis, there's nothing wrong. I guarantee that if they took all the weird stuff that happens later out and made it a bunch of people Bobby's age that just like nerd stuff and hanging out, I bet Peg and Hank would still find a reason to make Bobby stop. Hank decides to go to Ward's house and asks him to stop hanging out with Bobby, expecting that to be his father. Aside from Ward looking back before closing the door kinda being suspicious, seeing that Hank thought that Ward was Bobby's age confirms my previous statement.
You see, he and my boy Bobby are playmates.
Excuse me, but I'm Ward Rackley.
Hank Hill gets a first row seat on the craziness of Ward Ratley and his many monikers. Surprisingly, Hank feels pity for Ward Rackley instead of being angry, understanding that he was probably bullied a lot growing up, and wishes him luck with one final message.
Stay away from my son or I'll kick your ass.
You don't understand who you threaten. I have powers, terrible powers! Ma?
Imagine being his mom watching TV and having to let your own son in because he locked himself out. Hank decides that the best way to handle this situation is to do it his way.
Carburetor. Take it apart, put it back together, Repeat until you're normal.
And it's here that we get to the part where I really don't like Hank in this episode. How is fixing a carburetor going to make Bobby normal? Is it gonna make him more like you, Hank? Is it gonna make him understand more? No, he's just going to get bored with it and not even bother fixing it because Bobby isn't you. You guys have different personalities. You have to understand that. And making Bobby fix a carburetor until he's like you, normal, isn't going to do that. I understand having a son that has different interests than you may be kind of overwhelming, Hank. A lot of things overwhelm you. That's why you're the person you are. But Bobby inherited a lot of his stuff from Peggy, so therefore he's a lot different than you. I just don't understand Hank's mindset with this episode. Instead of working on the carburetor, Bobby sees his window open. Pretty weird if you ask me, and goes to Ward Rackley's house where he apologizes for what his father has done. Was his window always open like that? Or did Ward use his magic to open it? Ward says it's time to take things to the next level as everyone gets excited. He's going to summon a dread spirit that will give them unequal power, but one of them has to be the chalice holder. Gasp! What could this chalice holder be, and why is everyone too scared to be it? Wanting to prove himself to Ward, Bobby bravely volunteers.
I'll do it.
Excellent, my young apprentice. You'll learn that white wizard cone yet.
Again, guys, it's not what you think, it's a wizard cone. Ward says that the ceremony will begin at 8:30 o'clock. Bobby asks what the chalice holder does at the ceremony, and Noram explains that they hold the goblet, and just after they light the candles, the chalice holder drinks Caninus Spiritus. I wonder what Caninus Spiritus is. Is it some kind of fruity beverage?
Dog blood.
What?
Yeah, remember when I said I'll bring up the fact that they do weird stuff later on? This is what I'm talking about. Drinking dog blood. Now, I don't know if they attempted something like this before, but everyone was too scared to do it, and Bobby, being the only one that volunteered, actually started to go through with it. But who knows? They're weird.
You are the chosen one, Bobby. Soon and for all time, you will be known throughout the land as Robert the Dog Coiffer.
Okay, Mitchell Jefferson, I'm gonna have to ask you to step away from Bobby and stop dancing so weird. Bobby goes to the 9th Dimension bookstore to look for ways to get out of drinking dog blood as we see John Redcorn handing out flyers for his band, Big Mountain Fudge Cake, as the owner reminds him to stop passing out flyers everywhere. And trust me, if you listen to their music, you'll know exactly why he told him to stop passing them around. He tries to hand Bobby a flyer, and Bobby explains that he's looking up ceremonies involving drinking dog blood and trying to find a loophole to get out of it, confusing John Redcorn. Now, I'm probably sure you guys are thinking, oh, John Redcorn probably knows what to do. Well,
you're losing me.
You can't tell anyone this. Promise me?
Bobby, I give you my oath as a new age healer.
Now, I know a lot of people don't like John Redcorn, but his following actions really do show that he cares about other people aside from sleeping with desperate housewives. Bobby explains a situation that he has to drink dog blood to be accepted by this group of wizards, and he gives a very funny response to it.
Dog? Ugh, that's just weird.
I think it's a funny contrast, considering Bobby was thinking he was going to be like, oh yes, I see. Instead, he's like, ugh, that's just weird. Bobby laments that if he can't drink dog blood, what other skill does he have? And John Redcorn is left with a dilemma. Does he honor his oath, or does he go to Hank and help his son from this horrible dilemma?
Hank, there's something that I think you should know. Something very personal and disturbing.
Say what you will about John Redcorn, going to Hank about this immediately was the best decision. By the way, I like how they had double vision playing. Fill my eyes for that hooty vision.
Is it John Redcorn?
Bobby's going to drink dog blood. It's part of some ceremony his friends have cooked up, and it's going down tonight.
No god-dang way. I'm not gonna let Bobby be branded a freak for the rest of his life.
I know I gave Hank a hard time for trying to make Bobby normal, but This is ultimately the best decision for Bobby, going in and stopping this horrible thing from happening. They assemble at the baseball diamond as the chalice has been brought. And before they begin, they thank Brother Vaughn for providing the Caninus Spiritus. Which of course he provides it from his mom's boyfriend, Rick, who's a veterinarian. As Ward sends the others to the 5 points of the pentagram so they can begin, Mitchell Jefferson reminds him that there are only 4 bases, and he invokes the wrath of Ward Rackley.
Why do you always test me, Mitchell? Just go stand at shortstop.
Yeah, Mitchell, go stand at shortstop while we prepare for the ritual. Hank goes to Ward's house in search of Bobby, and his mom says that Ward and the others are gone. And,
Want to come in? Oh, whoops.
Man, I don't know what Ward's mom was thinking rolling to seduce Hank, but she got double ones. And no, I don't mean double as what you're thinking. Jeez, get your mind out of the gutter. Meanwhile, Ward prepares the Caninus Spiritus as he beckons the glass to him. Meanwhile, while Hank and John Redcorn arrive to the wrong spot where they find vagrants. Okay, so they're not vagrants, it's a bunch of people that kicked out Ward and the other gang before they got there. Ward hands Bobby the chalice as everyone chants, "White Wizard, White Wizard," as you see an eerie perspective of everyone staring at Bobby, waiting for him to drink. This also could be a good analogy for peer pressure and wanting to fit in with your peers. Ward tries to coax him into drinking by saying that everyone passes to the bog of doubt, while everyone says, "Do it, go on," but Bobby can't. Noram telling him to hurry before the moon wanes, but Bobby cannot, causing Ward to turn away ominously.
Then we will have to destroy you.
Bobby now sees the truth about the Coven of Artemis, that they're just a bunch of nerds. Bobby is surrounded by a barrage of mystical attacks, and he just laughs. To laugh in the face of adversity. Okay, seriously though, these guys are supreme weenies.
Oh my God! My dad was right about you guys. Under these cool robes and hats, you're all just a bunch of losers.
For such insolence, he is banished from the Coven of Artemis, which, honestly, I don't blame him. I mean, come on, who could take these nerds seriously?
Thanks for the robe, fellas. Oh, there's some dragon feathers in the pocket. Help yourself.
Now that Bobby is gone, he looks for the next chalice holder, to which no one accepts. So, he finds a very humane way to dispose of the Caninus Spiritus.
Let's find an overpass.
Imagine the poor soul that's driving home for work just to get splashed with dog blood. Ugh. They finally find Bobby, and Hank asks if they drank the dog blood, to which Bobby shrugs it off and says,
Me? Drink dog blood? That's not my thing.
Well, good for you.
I like the fact that Hank wasn't there to save the day, and Bobby was able to figure out that these guys were weenies and just leave on his own. Really shows growth in Bobby's character. We get one last joke about the Coven of Artemis and how Ward wears sandals with socks. And that was Witches of East Ireland. Thank you guys for watching. Again, this is weirdly enough my favorite episode. What do you guys think in the comment section below? And what do you think of Hank's reaction to Bobby joining this mystical cult, the Coven of Artemis? And do you think it was okay for him to try and make him like him and to be quote-unquote normal? Let me know in the comment section below how you feel about this episode. I hope you enjoyed the review, and until next time, I'll see you when you visit the Allery again, and I give my hoot in the dark. Thank you so much for watching. Join the Parliament of Hoots today and hit the bell to let you know when I go live or my next video is up. Don't forget to like the video and share with your fams. Let me know what you guys think of this episode in the comment section below. Check out these 2 videos, it'll take you to more of my content. Don't forget to follow me on my other platforms, Twitter and PlayStation Network. I might get a Twitch sometime, but in the near future. Until then, thank you guys so much for watching as I gave my hoot in the dark.